Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Today is going to be a great day. Tomorrow, even better. Let's keep building the foundation of happy and good and stomp on negative like a bug. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, call in. Good morning. Good morning, man. Oh, man, oh, man. Look at that blue sky. Look at that sunshine outside. Zeb at the Ranch and our major sponsor, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations open and serving you with a very safe, clean environment and the best in tires at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, outstanding, my friend. Thank you. I know you're going to call back a little later. I'll look forward to it.
You bet. Bye.
All right, sir. Hey, time for the weather, and I can't wait to hear this forecast. K&R Rental brings you the weather. Hello, Roger. And, of course, he's there early this morning. I'll tell you they're early this morning. They open up so that you can get the rental on the best tools and equipment you need for this springtime. I mean, maybe you're out trying to get your garden in or work on your lawn. They've got all the power rakes, all the garden and lawn equipment. I mean, the rototillers. Oh, yeah, they got it all at K&R Rental. Good people to work with. And, of course, for both long and short-term rental, K&R Rental on the Burley Paul Highway. And the number to call is 678-3122. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Spring storms are in our forecast. Here's a look at your weather for today. We are expecting sunny skies. It's going to be warming up to 84. A little bit of a breeze out of the south by this afternoon. Tonight, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly after midnight, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a low of 56. Tomorrow, 50% chance of rain and or thunderstorms. Now, some of these storms could be severe with large hail and damaging winds. Partly sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 77. For tomorrow night, hopefully that's going to be tapering off. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 47 by Friday. Back to partly sunny skies, high of 70 Saturday, mostly sunny, low 70s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow, I'll take it. We need the rain, too, by the way. Thank you, Gina. 48 degrees outside right now. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental. On the Burley Paul Highway, if you've got questions, call them, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Wow, we've got a full plate today of a lot of great guests coming on the program, and we even are going to start with our guests at 8:30 this morning. Ramsey Heating and Electric, don't forget them. They're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, and the number to call is 678-0459. It's not bragging. It's a fact. They've got all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. They've got all your filters for your air conditioning units. I mean, we're getting up to about 84 today. You're going to be sitting there going, ho hum, let's turn it on. And they're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. Where they provide warm winters and cool summers, the best of people, the best of service. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Caller, I'll be right there. I also want to give a great big shout out and a thank you to the excellent service of Dino's Septic Service, and I mean that. You call, they're there. That's as simple as it gets. You call, they're there to serve you. Dino Septic Service, and you give them a jingle at 436-6526 or 678-1638, and I mean fast, fair, and friendly service. Septic tank pumping and liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, backhoe services, it's all there. They do everything to serve you, and service is the key at Dino's Septic Service. Don't forget, they'll pull in the yard with that big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service, you get a hold of them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
Well, good morning, Reb.
Yes, sir.
I have more of a question and a comment this morning. Who is responsible for bringing all these Somalis and some of these other ethnic groups into the Twin Falls area? I've been told it was CSI, but I don't really know, and like you, I'm not going to speculate.
Well, the thing is, they have a refugee center on the campus of CSI, and of course they work diligently with the government to provide information necessary and all the availabilities of housing, etc., how they can live here in this area. And quite frankly, it's a lucrative venture for the College of Southern Idaho and other towns to be involved in it. Myself personally, and I'm going to say this right up front, I think that what President Trump is doing in stopping for at least 60 days all immigration into this country is absolutely necessary. I wished it would be extended for a lot longer until we get rid of these problems right now with the coronavirus and unemployment and people trying to get back to work after the virus scare and everything else. I don't think it's appropriate at all to have our borders and our arms wide open to receive people when we aren't taking care of our own.
You know, Zeb, a few years back, and I don't know just how many, but you had to have a sponsor to be able to enter this country. You had somebody here in America that was willing to stand up for you, and you had more or less a job promised to you when you came. And that was a wonderful, wonderful program. But that's right by the wayside. Now, in Twin Falls, which I was there yesterday, violating my rules and everything else. But I went in a store, a very popular store in Twin Falls that sells groceries, and I felt like I was in a foreign country because all of these people, a good portion of them were of a different color.
And I'm not going to, wait a minute, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there, Keith. I don't care about the color of a person's skin. I don't care about legal migration into this country. And notice I said legal migration. But what my concerns are right now, we have 340 million people in this country that with a stoppage of work, a stoppage of being able to go play, a stoppage of education, I think we've got to concentrate right now, foremost, on getting our country back on its feet, getting our economy back on its feet, and not bringing in more people. A, we don't know their health standards. B, ready? Do they have a job or employment ready, or are they going to go on the public dole? All of these things really are pertinent right now, and I think President Trump was 100% correct in putting a stoppage on this.
Absolutely. But let me tell you what happened to me yesterday.
Real quick.
I was checking out, and in front of me was a little gal who had probably $100 pair of fashion jeans on, looked good on her, but she bought all these groceries, and then she couldn't pay for all of them.
Oh, my.
And I asked the clerk, how much does she need? Because I would be willing to help out $3, $4, $5. And she said, no, it's like $20 or $30 short. She was paying with OBD card or whatever that
IBT card, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there I am at the checkout counter waiting to check out, and she has everything comes to a stop because this gal doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
And so she says, let me go find some or something. So we're waiting and waiting and waiting.
Hurry, Keith.
And then,
okay. Hurry.
And finally she comes back, and she don't have any money, so then they start, taking the stuff away from her because she can't pay for it. Well, they can't restock that stuff because of our health issues and stuff. So what a problem that is with welfare.
Well, the thing is, and I think it goes for anybody, it doesn't make any difference whether or not your IBT card is full, or if you have a lack of funding in your checking account, or if you reach into your Wranglers and you owe $51 and you've only got $32 in your pocket. People should be aware of what their financial status is before they walk into a store. I've always, this is something I've maintained. If you haven't got the money for it, don't buy it. And you better be aware of what your financial situation is before you put yourself in the position of not only embarrassment, but also holding up other people.
Okay, why did we let all these people in who have no way of support?
Yeah, well, why we let them in is not for me or you to decide. They're here, and we've got some major problems. But I am of the favor, and that's why I said a few moments ago, I can't control who's already here, nor can you. But I want to stop anybody else coming in, at least until we get a handle on the coronavirus and our economy, our job status, everything else. That's what we can control.
Well, once again, you told it like it is.
Okay.
And I'm glad we've got people like you that stand up for what they know is right.
Well, I'm not going to abide by anybody like the Democrats saying we should let everybody in. And the Democrats, by the way, Keith, are absolutely pursuing, right now as we speak, legislation to restrict the president's authority to limit immigration. And I'm telling you, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to condemn the Democrats, and I'm going to damn the Democrats for what they're doing.
Well, they don't even have the courage to meet.
Yeah, they're going to stay at home.
So,
yeah.
Oh, geez.
I appreciate your call, buddy. Thank you. I got to run.
I intended to get yours up.
All right, well, you did. Thank you very much. Have a good day. All right. Wheels, send the feed line up just a touch to me, if you would, please. I guess my old ears are having a little trouble this morning. Want to remind everybody about Certified Pest Control, Kevin and the crew, and they've got an offering of advanced spider and bug treatment. I hate spiders and bugs crawling all over, and that starts at just $39.95. How do you get a hold of Certified Pest Control? It's easy. Go to avoidbugs@gmail.com. I mean, we've had Kevin and Certified Pest Control work for us, and believe me, they do a wonderful job to keep the pests away. Book your appointment today with the above email address, which is avoidbugs@gmail.com. These are good folks to work with. You get a hold of them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, maybe I've got a solution for that fellow on his groceries. If he would buy them local here, support our, dealers and stuff here, he wouldn't have to drive to Flint and worry about that.
I really have become a buy local advocate since all of this started. Now, here's the situation. I want you to tell me what I should do. I'm going to have you be Solomon right now. Are you ready for this?
He hung up, sir.
Oh, well, I didn't want him to hang up. My goodness, I appreciate his comments. I was going to have him give me a little Solomonistic, I like that word, Solomonistic attitude. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Call back, sir. I want to talk to you again. I appreciate that. Wheels, could we please have a good word about the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Representative Fred Wood to explain this year's voting by mail.
All citizens who are registered to vote will receive postcards by mail from the Secretary of State within the next 2 weeks. Please fill out this application to request your absentee ballot, then mail. When you receive your ballot, vote and mail according to instructions prior to May 19th. Please vote absentee ballot prior to May 19, paid for Fred Wood campaign.
There you go, Fred. Thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Right on cue.
Well, I would hope we do it that way.
Hey, what do you think of the YouTube taking down those two doctors' video about them laying out the facts that they found and the percentages of people are getting sick on this coronavirus?
Do you really want to know my attitude on this? Are you really going to stir the pot on me this morning? I'll give it to you. I think this is nothing more than a leftist approach to elongate the problem of the coronavirus, and that will absolutely, they think, devastate the possibility of re-election for Donald Trump. It's turned political right now. That's exactly why the Democrats are staying home from the House. That's exactly why they're after eliminating the president's authority on limitations of immigration. They are doing everything they can, and I'm not going to hold back, to use this pandemic as a pill, a placebo for them to knock him out of office next November. You got me started now, buddy.
I know it. I feel the same way. I mean, who is the CEO of YouTube to say that a video is problematic?
Yeah.
When all it does is lay out the numbers and the facts and the percentages.
If you put a video together today, I don't care what it's about, if it's about your starter and alternator repair or whatever, do you think that that video is going to be stopped, stymied, or curtailed? No, it's not. Why? Because it's not rippling the waters. But when you have doctors putting together a video that's going to give their explanatory results on what they think about the coronavirus, and that goes against the grain of what the left wants or wants the public to perceive, bingo, censorship.
Exactly. First Amendment. Who gives YouTube and Facebook, who gives them the right to decide what is the truth and what is a lie and what's problematic and what isn't?
Money.
Yeah. Democrats, the left, socialists, they want to control everything.
Yeah.
And this is one of their... They never let a crisis go to waste, and this is one of them.
Well, okay, wait a minute. Stop right there. Direct your attention to the Democrats saying, oh, well, why, we've got to stay at home. We can't go back, and we can't finalize the relief bills. We can't take care of the other issues that are very pressing right now for the American people because we have to stay home and protect ourselves and our family from the coronavirus. Meanwhile, America is trying to put itself back up on its legs. They've been knocked to the canvas, and we need to get this country running again, and the Democrats run and hide?
Exactly. Let them live on the Paycheck Protection Program. Let them live on that $1,200 that they sent out.
You know, did you get your $1,200?
Pardon?
Did you get a $1,200 check?
I did.
You did? I did not, nor did my lovely bride. And then the qualifications, if you want to call them as such, for the relief for sole proprietors and business owners, bingo, didn't work. I'm still sitting out in the cold. I'm getting a little frustrated. Maybe it's the way I part my hair, which is getting very long, by the way. I don't know, but I'm not happy about this.
I'm not either. I mean, I don't qualify for any of that government money they put out there because I'm a sole proprietor.
Yeah, I know. Welcome to the world of being not included.
Exactly. So, I mean, I feel that we should demand that the Democrats or Congress not even get paid.
Well, how can you say you can get paid? Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, they're just practicing social distancing and they're going to stay safe for their families and themselves. Okay, but the Republicans don't want to leave. The Republican Party wants to stay there and get this garbage taken care of back there on the coronavirus, the relief bills, and a lot of other things that are very pressing. So why is one side of the aisle willing to stay and work and the other side says, hey, vacation time?
Because they do not want to do anything for the American people. I am old enough to remember when Nancy Pelosi stood 8 hours in a filibuster supporting illegal aliens and wouldn't stand 30 seconds to support a young man getting into the Space Force who his grandfather was a World War II vet.
Absolutely. You know, I hate to sound bitter. A guy called me yesterday on my cell phone, and he says, gee whiz, Zeb, you sure go after the Democrats. And I said, okay, well, let's stop right there, and you tell me why I shouldn't. What are they doing as a party that shows that they have unification for the betterment of their constituents and the entirety of the United States? Tell me one thing.
Nothing.
There you go.
There you go. They should be, instead of Democrats, we should rename them the Anti-American Party.
I'll tell you what, I'm so frustrated, and you little bits and pieces. You know what, person, I got to run because I've got a guest coming on in 2 minutes, and I got to do a commercial. But let me tell you what my major fear is this morning. Seriously, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, it'll never happen. Well, I didn't think Biden would last this long either. But my biggest fear is that a person like Stacey Abrams would be selected as the vice presidency choice to Joe Biden, and then if something happened, here is a woman from Georgia that absolutely has never been elected to a higher office than state representative. She writes filthy pornographic novels. That's a fact. She did not accept the results of the Georgia election. She's in debt over $250,000, and she's got an ethics investigation going against her. Well, holy cow, isn't she a great VP choice if she gets selected?
Well, she's a perfect candidate for, for a party, yeah. But Stacey Abrams made a comment when she was about, on the election. She made a comment about Trump's economy, said it was so bad that truck drivers were having to buy their own trucks.
Yeah. Don't get me started on her. She is...
There told me she was playing with a sack of marbles that isn't clear full.
Yeah, I got to run, Doug, but I wished I had more time to discuss it, but I've got a dear friend coming on right now to discuss the hazards of the meat industry right now of being closed, so bear with me.
Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers.
Okay, buddy. Thank you very much. We also got a little feedback there. Watch that, please. And right now, let's remind everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. Don't forget, for all the equipment for the lifting, the digging, the pushing, the carrying, I'm telling you, they've got it all. All the Bobcats, all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts, all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. Woo! Call them. They'll help you. Berry Equipment and Rental. In Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Yep, they got all the equipment you're looking for. A dear friend is on the program right now, and I have the highest, and I underline that word highest, respect for him and his knowledge as not only being a pork producer and great farmer in this area, but he's nationally known and has worked on the national scene to protect the agricultural industry, and that's Dave Roper. Dave, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you today?
I'm good. I wanted to get you on, and we have limited time this morning because I am very, very fearful, and tell me if my fears are warranted, about our meat supply in this country and the food supply chain that might have a broken link. What are your thoughts?
Well, we are sure in unprecedented times right now, and I likewise am a bit fearful because of the uncertainty. I think most people have been paying a little bit of attention if they've gone or tried to go to the grocery store. But the issue simply is there's enough meat out there, we just can't get it processed and distributed through the systems that are in place today.
Okay, when you say that, Dave, I've got to jump in on you. We can't get it processed. Does the general public really understand the process and the way that the dominoes have to fall in order for the consumer to get the meat at the market? Do they understand the problems?
Well, that's a question for your audience. I think in your listening area, I think most of them do. However, outside of your area, most of them think that the food all comes from Walmart or something like that.
Okay, and when saying that, what happens to the producer? What's happening to Dave Roper? What's happening to the ranchers? What's happening to the feedlot operators and the dairymen? What's happening right now on their respective businesses? They can't take their products off their premises.
Well, it's interesting. There was a lot of money made available for small businesses, but for the most part, all of the small businesses in agriculture were excluded from that. And at the end of the day, they're the ones that are really going to need some help because this is going to be a complete equity drain in agriculture. That means the value of all of their land, the value of their equipment, the value of the commodities they produce are all going to be devalued because of the inability to get it through to the marketplace. So when that happens, the customer needs to understand that because of that, there will be probably an increase in the price that they will have to pay and a shortage of those items in the future. Now, my worry and my speculation, I should say, is that this is going to have a devastating effect on the meat industry for quite a period of time, simply because of the fact that there are going to be a lot of livestock producers that are going to go out of business. And that's my worry. The short term, we're having to euthanize animals, unfortunately. They're not able to make it to the marketplace. And when they do, some of them will be older. And so I don't think there's going to be a shortage of meat in the near future. However, my concern is the long-term effect that this will have on the farmer and the consumer at the same time.
You know, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen an attitude that's been thrown at the dairymen, the pork producers, beef producers, to where literally they're having to depopulate their herds and literally throw away and waste the food and the meat, and yet the prices are soaring. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable.
Well, so if I can relate it maybe to a local restaurant, and some people are going to wonder why, even when they're allowed to open, why some of these restaurants choose not to open if they can only allow 10 people a day into the restaurant. And it simply is the cost of doing business, 10 people a day, they'll still go bankrupt. They'll still go broke because to open a store, I know our local meat packer costs them about $1 million a day to run the plant, okay? And if they're only running it, if they can't get the throughput, then they're going to go broke right away. So I understand the reluctance of restaurants to open if they can only serve 10 people or 5 people an hour because that's not profitable. That's not where they're designed to be. And so I think there's going to be some significant pushback throughout the country as we reopen. I hope and pray that we can get things open in a normal way but and I'm doing the best I can to make sure we get the products where we go. The other thing I feel for is the potato farmers now. The unfortunate thing is they're planting potatoes, and in the process have already got contracts. A significant number of the companies that hold the contracts say, "Oh, by the way, we've got to cut you back of about 30% from your contract," and that's going to. These guys have already got the inputs invested, so I feel for my brothers in the row crop business as well, because it's going to hurt them.
Dave, what about if you could wave a magic wand today and try to improve the conditions of ag in general? How would you do it, and where would you start?
Well, I think the president has I don't know what it's called, but he's used some authority to maintain the help needed to open these plants and get pork and chicken and beef back moving. I don't know how successful that's going to be, but I think, the president's in the right step. Interestingly enough, there's supposed to be government entities that are supposed to call me and other livestock producers and say, what can I do to help you as you have to euthanize product? And to date, no one has contacted me. You're the only one that's contacted me about that, and there's only about four pork producers in the state of Idaho. I would think that our elected representatives, if they was interested in we in agriculture, they would have made a phone call or two.
Absolutely.
The guidance and the lead has to be taken by the president. And and I don't know how successful that will be, but he's taking the lead to say, okay, we've got these milk plants, we've got these pork plants, we've got these chicken plants initially that need to be open, or else we're going to have dire consequences in the future.
Dave, I'm going to take a call.
Maintain some throughput. We're going to have to try to open and maintain open to our export markets as well.
Right.
We're not the only ones that are reeling from this. It's the whole world that's hurting right now.
Absolutely. Dave Roper's on the phone with us, and we're going to take a quick call. I'm limited on time, caller, so real fast with your question. Fast. Go ahead, please.
Dave, I feel like this is an opportunity for producers to be able to process from head to toe. In other words, if they're a meat producer, do it all right on the farm or within the location, and then freeze it and sell it on out that way, and eliminate this thing we're up against now that's limiting our ability to distribute. If you can touch on that, if you can't, that's fine.
Okay.
Zeb, I'll let you go.
All right, Earl, thank you. Very good question. Dave, what about pork producers like yourself becoming your own sole entity of also being a processor?
Well, there's a lot. Idealistically and holistically, that might be a good approach years ago. But Zeb, I produce around 200 roaster pigs a week, and those roaster pigs are really only to go up to about 100 pounds, 80 to 100 pounds, and then they're utilized. Now, I've had a lot of increase, people wanting to buy those, and that's good, but it wouldn't take but a minute to load up what I produce. And I've found this niche market, and for the most part, my niche market goes to the Chinese restaurants in California, Oregon, and Washington. Now, my pigs, I don't have the capacity on the farm to take them up to 280 pounds or so. I've asked for a building permit from the county 8 weeks ago that I can build a temporary facility, and 8 weeks now we haven't been able to meet with them to get that temporary done, and they have not approved my temporary permit. So I'm up against. I'm trying to do some things that he suggested. I brought a local guy in Paul that takes pigs for the local consumer, and he's seen an increase in demand. But the numbers with the way that all of agriculture has been molded into are not the same that everybody has 5 and 10 pigs in their backyard.
Yeah.
And the reason that is because the profit margins have gotten so narrow that you have to do it in economics of scale, or you couldn't stay in business. And this is one of the other things that's going to be a repercussion as to what happens in the future, that
I believe there's a lot of uncertainty with regard to it.
Well, let me ask you this, Dave, and I don't want to be negative when I say this or sound negative, but I want to be very blunt and honest. Is this a pothole in the road that could widen into a Grand Canyon for all meat producers and all of ag in the future? I mean, it sounds to me a little scary about keeping producers in business.
Well, there are some new trends that we have started to participate in, and that's some of those are called Uber Eats and a lot of these virtual restaurants. Those things are in the beginning, and those things have been very positive because people want to know where the food comes from, and we've embraced that to a certain point. But you have to be cautious because certain things can blow those up right away. So I think ultimately the outcome is we're going to see more of these of virtual restaurants, if you will, people to process, and then it's delivered by Uber Eats or online, or there's a host of places that deliver meat products. And I do think there's room for that, and I think it'll happen. But I don't know that they can compete with those who have the money right now, and that's Walmart, Tyson, and Smithfield. They kind of call the shots when it comes to that, and that's the negative thing when you see an industry get so narrow with regard to the actual producers and the actual processors, and then the distribution system. I do think there's an issue there.
When you look at the overall food chain, if you will, from the field to the plate, you've been in agriculture all your life, and you've always been a straight shooter on my program. Are you concerned about a breakdown of all the food chain, whether it's from the harvest to the processor to finally the grocery store? I mean, are you looking at some effects that are going to be long-term at the grocery store?
Well, I would hope not, but I've never been down this road before, and I've heard from my grandpa during the Depression that things got really, really bad. The signs and the signals are very similar, and the more I study the Depression, the more of a reality check sets in. So, Zeb, I don't know all the answers there. I hope that we can hold on. Our trigger point is if we don't see something happen by the end of May, then we have to take some devastating steps on our whole farm, just to make sure that we don't lose it all in just a couple of months.
You know, you've always been on the program, and we've answered political questions and others regarding agriculture, and I'm going to really ask you this. We're in an election year, and a lot of people are very, very concerned about what's going to happen with a possibility of a change of administrations. What are your thoughts about what the GOP is doing with the Trump administration versus what might happen to agriculture underneath a left Democrat control?
That's the most scary scenario of all. And in the event that there was if there was a electable candidate on the Democratic side, I would probably be looking to exit agriculture at this point, because even though I might not personally agree with all his beliefs, I think to have President Trump in the position he is the best thing for agriculture dealing with a crisis. You want someone who's maybe lost a business or two and know what it takes to have to get back on your feet again. And I can tell you what, Biden has never had to do that. Trump, even with his wealth, has had a significant amount of failures. And you learn more from your failures than you do your successes or the people that prop you up. So I think as far as an economic recovery and a U.S. recovery, I don't know that we would have a better leader right now than President Trump.
You know, one final thought on this. About 3 months ago on my program, and perhaps you heard him, I had a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, come on my show and denigrate American agriculture and say to the effect that we would all be a lot better off if we would just import all of our food. And it's that kind of idiocy that I see looming on the horizon. How afraid are you of that concept?
Scares me to death. We're all also fighting a pandemic with what's called African swine fever, which is why that the Chinese have no pork. They have lost more pork in China because of that disease than we produce in the United States. So we have an opportunity to sell excess pork to China if it'll happen. But we have to, your listeners have to spread the word that the safest, most inexpensive food is produced nowhere else than here right in the United States. And we have, because of the network of the government inspection and systems that you can sometimes say you don't like, but they protect the health of the product to the consumer. And there's nowhere in the world you can go and you can find food that's less expensive and more healthy and safe than you can find here in Idaho and here in the United States.
Dave, you've been a friend of mine for a long, long time. I have the utmost respect for your knowledge. I want to say thank you to you, Dave Roper, for taking the time to be on my program this morning. I hope that you will come back in the future and share more thoughts. Thank you once again for being on my program. Dave Roper of Kimberly, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
God bless. Sharp man, very sharp, and he's met when President Bush was in office, met with the president talking about ag issues, etc., and he knows. I mean, there's a young man that knows agriculture inside and out, and I really have a lot of respect for him. Talking about a possible weak link, if you will, in the food chain. So I'm not going to pull any punches, folks. I'm really worried about this, and we all should be. And to reiterate what he said, we should all be supporting our American farmers and ranchers. Right now it's time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they want to say thank you to the first-line healthcare providers who are keeping the community safe and healthy. And their hearing clinic is still open for patient care, following all the CDC guidelines for safety and cleanliness. I urge you to give them a call at 312-0957. Where are they located? Right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. The best service you. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Spring storms are in our forecast. Here's a look at your weather for today. We are expecting sunny skies. It's going to be warming up to 84. A little bit of a breeze out of the south by this afternoon. Tonight, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly after midnight, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a low of 56. Tomorrow, 50% chance of rain and or thunderstorms. Now, some of these storms could be severe with large hail and damaging winds. Partly sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 77. For tomorrow night, hopefully that's going to be tapering off. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 47 by Friday. Back to partly sunny skies, high of 70 Saturday, mostly sunny, low 70s. That's the your weather forecast for 7-3.
Gina, thank you very much. And don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And don't forget your hearing is extremely important. If you are noticing any problems or diminishment in hearing, I urge you to call 312-0957, the best. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, I heard that gentleman is just on, Mr. Roper, and I'm wondering, are we still importing beef?
Yes.
And stuff from other countries?
Yes, and that's the thing that bothers me. And when I've had Bill Bullard and others on the air, and Wheels, we got a tremendous amount of feedback there, please. I can hardly hear it. It doesn't go on the airwaves that way, folks, but it comes down the feed line to me. Yes, I have always been a long-term supporter of COOL, country of origin labeling, so that we can basically go to the grocery store and say no to this country and yes to the red, white, and blue. But yes, there is a lot of imports coming in on foreign beef, which I will stand up and say, and somebody can yell at me, I question the integrity and the safety of doing that.
Exactly. How do we know the quality of it? How do we know what they were fed while they were growing up?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm with you on that label that tells where our food comes from, whether it be vegetables, whether it be meat, or anything.
Yeah, and Deanne and I have had a long-standing practice here at this house, and when she goes to the grocery store, anything that does not say processed or whatever here in the United States, it stays on the shelf.
Exactly, and I'm with you there. So I think we need to get a hold of our representatives that are on vacation and tell them that we need to stop bringing this stuff in. If we've got to euthanize our beef, why bring theirs in?
Well, let me ask you this, and Dave brought up an outstanding point of conversation. Where is Simpson? Where's Crapo? Where's Risch? Why aren't they really standing up and speaking out for their constituents, the state of Idaho that's involved in agriculture, the number one industry in the state? Where have you heard anything? Please tell me, because maybe I missed it.
Well, I thought I seen their pictures on a milk carton here a while back.
Okay. Well, you understand my point. Yeah, absolutely. They want our vote, but then they better be more vocalized to help support the people that are feeding the world.
Well, they're going to be vocal here in about 2 months when they start running their re-election campaign.
Yeah, I know.
That's when we need to question them. Where were you the last 2 years?
Yeah, how true is that? You know, I'd love to see somebody like Mike Crapo or Jim Risch stand up, take one of their wingtip shoes off, slam it on the desk, and say, for Pete's sakes, grow up, you babies in kindergarten. Let's start working for the American public.
No, they won't do that because they're in the good old boys club, and they don't make waves back there, or they get kicked out. They can't be on the committees. But, Mr. Risch, where are you on this deal with Biden and Ukraine and the State Department?
Yeah.
That's your committee. You haven't called anybody.
Nah, I just, your good old boys club is a good way to put it. Doug, God bless you for your call. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I totally agree with you and Doug about Buy America and where I have been. But I have a couple comments about earlier things. First of all, as far as getting your check, it's my understanding that if you got a refund for your taxes, you automatically get your check. If you get something like Social Security or disability, whenever you get that check, you normally get that check. You will get your check for your $1,200 or whatever. And then if you paid taxes, did not get a refund, then you have to do regular paperwork. I think there's a couple pages you have to fill out. And then also the fact that they're talking about the virus. Last night on a talk show I was listening to, there was a doctor from California who was a guest, and he is prominent in 2 of the very large hospitals in California. They have not lost one single patient because they are treating this virus in a completely different way. They're not treating the virus itself, they're treating the immune system, and it is working, but nobody's paying attention to them.
Let me ask you a question, because you've been a faithful listener for a long time. Do you believe that the numbers that we're being given on the coronavirus devastation are true or perhaps falsified? In other words, when I say this, it seems like, all these deaths, but then they find out on some tracers that there were underlying physical impairments that might have been the cause of death, but they're going ahead and saying it's coronavirus. And then also the same is true for the number of cases reported. It might be a common cold or a flu, but they're saying it as coronavirus. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, they're totally phony. That's all political and control. I don't believe one single thing about their statistics, because there are other statistics out there to prove how wrong they are in comparison with all the other deaths that there normally are, plus the fact, look what the numbers of suicides that have increased, and the numbers of divorces, and obviously there'd be either divorces or pregnancies coming up.
Yeah.
So it's just totally about control and socialism, the whole thing.
You know, I'm so glad you called. I always appreciate it. Thank you. God bless. Stay well. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. Very nice lady right there, and I do agree with her. I'm just really becoming very cynical about what's being told to me, and I'm supposed to swallow it like baby pablum. I can't do that. I want to remind you, he was just on the air a moment ago, and that was Doug of Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street in Hebron. I mean, this business that he has, Alternator and Starter Repair, is for sale. And I'm telling you, it's a turnkey operation. I mean, it's all there. And knowing Doug, it's meticulous. Everything is just right. I urge you to call if you're interested in Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair at 635 21st Street in Hebron. Call the shop number right now at 878-4991 or 431-5282. This business is really something, and Doug will train the buyer, the business, and I mean, like I said, it's a turnkey operation, and what an opportunity. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair in Hebron. You call them today. It's been a great morning. and I want to appreciate everybody that's called in. I want to mention something real quick that is very personal to me because he's my friend. Kevin Butcher took a really hard fall off the roof about a week ago, and is hurt, broken ribs, punctured lung, everything. And they have a GoFundMe page on Facebook, and they're going to have a wonderful kind of an auction to garner funds. I urge you, I don't want to step in and take away from the people that have already set this up. I urge you to please, my audience especially, go to Facebook GoFundMe page for Kevin Butcher, or whatever you can do to help and assist this family, because they are such great people that own Darrow's Cleaners in Burley, and they're just simply really great people that are having a hard time right now, and I appreciate them. Thank you. Sharon Wilmot, that fills in on this program many days, is going in for surgery this morning. As a matter of fact, she may be in there right now, and I believe it's for a hip replacement, and so therefore I want to extend the best of God's blessings to her for a speedy recovery, and I hope you'll send her a card and wish her well. We're going to take a little break right now, and we're going to send it over to CBS News. They're going to mess everything up, and we'll come back with Dave Bigo and then Dr. Steve Turley in the next hour. Don't you go away. Oh, good morning, and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. They're open and, of course, with a very safe, clean environment and the best in tires and services to your vehicle, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, some more of our friends, and that's, of course, Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at the Georgia struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I was so impressed with the service over the dumpsters. We needed a dumpster to clean out my great big tack room and my garage and the house, and oh my goodness, they brought that dumpster over here. We filled it up. They came and got it. That's great service. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. I urge you to call them today. Don't put it off. You call them at 734-6969, Western Waste Services. Wheels, could we please have the good word for the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Senator Kelly Anthon to explain this year's voting by mail.
The outcome of every election we have is determined by who shows up to vote. This year, Idaho's primary election is a mail-in only election. It's not ideal, and it's not the way we'd like to do it. But your vote does make a difference for all of us in Idaho. So please, first request a ballot, then mail it in, and make your voice heard. This message is paid for by the Anthem for Idaho Senate campaign.
And I appreciate it. Senator Anthon, thank you very, very much. I want to remind you, too, about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Tomorrow at 9:17, Nick Greenwell is going to be on the air with us, telling us exactly what's happening at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, and how they have been serving all the folks that need exercising and care to recoup from the surgeries or the accidents or whatever the aches and the pains are from. They are there to serve you with the best physical therapists anywhere, anytime. Absolutely. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I'll give you the number to call so you can call, make an appointment, find out more. 678-1191. 678-1191. That's the number to call so they can help you to get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. We're going to go to the phone line right now, and boy, it's never a loss of different things going on in the news that I want to talk to this man about. Good morning, back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Dave Bego, how are you?
I'm fine, Zeb. How are you doing?
Doing good. Dave, in the first hour this morning, we had a very dear friend of mine that is very noteworthy to the livestock industry and has served on national boards, and when President Trump was in office, went back and met with him about the problems that are being incurred by the ag industry itself. And he was on, and he shared a lot of concerns about these meatpacking plants that are closing and the trickle-down effect that has absolutely been devastating to the producers. I'm going to say this right now. Agriculture in this country is in trouble, and I just hope the American consumer knows and appreciates all they're going through.
Yeah, I do too, Zeb. We have a meatpacking plant here close to Indianapolis, and they're talking about shutting down, and they actually had a plant in Kentucky they already shut down, and because they're having problems with everything, and and the farmers have had problem getting stuff, so they get things planted here and get moving for this summer. And I hope the government starts lifting restrictions and allows people to get back to work and they can get things done.
What's the general feeling back there? I know I asked you this last week. I'm going to ask you again. What's the general feeling? Is it fear and trepidation, or is it, come on, open the doors and let us get back to work? What's going on?
I think most people, the majority of people, want to open the doors and get back going again. I mean, there are people out there that are afraid, but I think a big percentage of the people want to get back to work and get back to socializing with their friends and neighbors and family and things like that.
Dave, do you feel on a personal nature that the coronavirus in itself has been overplayed, overhyped? Are you as concerned when you start hearing the numbers have been skewed a little bit on not only the deaths from the coronavirus, but also the confirmed cases? Do you think we're being told everything that is really factual?
No, I think it's being overblown, especially by the media and the far left, because, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to keep hammering away at this, this is another one of their agendas to bring down the president.
Explain that a little bit. I know you and I have talked about it, but I honestly think there's a lot of people that don't see the tree because there's a forest behind it. I honestly agree with you, but the Democrats are playing this out. The proof in the pudding, they took off the House of Representatives on the left side of the aisle. They're not going to go back at a time when really there's so many problems.
Yeah, they, as I've said many times on your show, they speak out of both sides of their mouth. One time, we should do this, do this. Next time, no, we shouldn't do this. And they're not honest about things. And I keep telling people all the time, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And what they're doing right now in the House is a perfect example of that. And it's time to get this country back going again. I think it's something that we have to be careful about, and people can still wear masks and gloves and stuff like that. But when you look at the cases and the deaths, it's less than 1% of our population across the country, and we need to move forward.
Dave, where do the labor unions play a part in this? I was talking to a gentleman about 2-3 days ago, and he said that the labor unions, i.e. the SEIU and others, they're going to be the fly in the milk as far as getting people back to work and getting this economy back and regaining its strength and composure. What are your thoughts?
There's no doubt about that. As I've said many times on your show, the unions, the big ones like the SEIU and the AFL-CIO and the rest of them, they control the media, and they tell the media what they want them to say, and they also control the Democratic Party and tell them what they want to say and talk about. That's why you heard from Bernie Sanders talking about socialism all the time, because he was being supported by the SEIU and other ones, and even Biden, even though he's kind of playing playing both sides of the aisle a little bit. He talks about socialistic ideas at times too, and this is all because they want to bring down Trump in the Senate, Republican Senate, and get the Democrats in the House, Senate, and the presidency, and bring down this country and turn it into a socialistic, communistic country.
Do you see any of your neighbors, friends, associates, employees, business partners, anybody, have they transitioned their thought away from the Trump administration?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the biggest problem people have with Trump is that, he tends to be a little... goes a little overboard sometimes and isn't very professional. And I think he's gotten better over the years since he became president, but he still needs to tone it down and still move in the direction to do things he's done, because he's done great things with the border. I think he's done good things with the coronavirus. He's done great things with the unions, with the National Labor Relations Board, and he's did great things to stimulate the economy. And but you need to back off and develop a personality and a professionalism that attracts the people.
What about his handling of the coronavirus with Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, the daily updates and everything? I've been in favor of them. However, I think they should be curtailed at 30 minutes maximum and not go on and on for hours, because that diminishes the interest of the American public. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I think you got to watch what Fauci says, because he came from the left and initially was starting this stuff to go after Trump, and I think Trump needs to be careful about that. But I think you're right. 30 minutes is more than enough.
The main problem is not being addressed. And we can sit here all day and talk about the coronavirus. We can sit here and talk all day about the economy or the lack of. But you know what? I'd like to take my finger and point it right in the chest of the Chinese government in condemnation and damnation of them. And they have got to be stopped. First of all, there are other viruses over there in their virology labs, and we don't know about the safety and security. We don't know anything about why this was developed in the first place or how it was released. I'm really scared that these people, these evil people, are going to do this again.
Yeah, and China is a communist government, and and they don't treat their people well, and they want to turn this country into a communistic country too, and they're going to do everything they can to help those here in this country. They're trying to do that, like say the unions and the far left, the deep state, and all that kind of stuff.
What are your thoughts about, it's easy and giving lip service to, we've got to bring all the pharmaceutical plants and the processing and manufacturing back here to the United States, and all these politicians will bluster up, but I haven't heard anything being concrete that's really been done. Have you?
No, and I think a big problem, to be honest with you, is a lot of them don't want to come back because the unions are going to go after them and try to force unionize them, and it's going to raise the cost of these pharmaceuticals big time. And and again, I'm not anti-union, but I think the unions need to step back and reevaluate how they do things and what they're doing in this country.
Okay, but now you're a sharp guy and a political analyst, author, own a great big business and everything. Aren't you, and I know you are, but aren't you concerned and really full of trepidation over medicines that you may take, your wife may take, members of your family may take, that have a fingerprint of China all over them? This has got to stop.
Yeah, I think it's scary. I think it needs to come back to this country and be developed and under our laws and our processes and stuff like that. And again, it would help get more people back to work. And I think at the end of the day, it would actually help people make more without the unions trying to force unionize them and push them wages up too high. And here's the other thing about the unions. The ones that have caused these problems. It isn't just about people making more wages, because that's a good thing, but they try and slow down their productivity so that it takes 3 people to do what one person should be able to do. And they do that because they want the union dues from 3 people instead of 1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and go over to the Democratic Party and the nomination for the Democrats, possibly Joe Biden. Wow. Every day that goes by and I see and or hear and or read what he is doing or not doing, living in his basement, and the depreciation of his abilities and faculties, are you, like I am, thinking that the closer we get to July and August, we're going to see a replacement?
Well, I think it could happen, and I think I've mentioned before on your show, they put a person as the vice president that will, if he wins the presidency, that will actually run the presidency, and Biden will be just be a face, and that's it.
Okay, but right there lies in the problem. Oh my goodness, have you seen and heard some of the names that very possibly could be considered, one of which is almost demanding that she gets picked, and that's Stacey Abrams from Georgia. What a despicable personality, and yet she's trying to get all the press.
Yeah, and that's how they do it. And the gal in Michigan too, she's the same way. And the things that she has done to the people in Michigan and restricted them from doing and stuff like that. It's sad. But what's happening with some of these ladies and people is that the people in the states who were leaning more towards the Democrats are getting pretty sick with what their position is and their rulings and what their thoughts are moving forward, and they're out there kind of pushing back against them and doing rallies and stuff like that.
Do you think that, and we've heard this and talked about it before, but do you think there's going to be a drafting, if you will, of Andrew Cuomo to be the so-called snake in the weeds come summertime to go against and or take over Biden's spot?
I think it could be a possibility. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Him being from New York and that, I think that is a problem area for a lot of people.
When you look at the overall party and their platform and what they've done and especially what they've not done, what really leg does the Democratic Party have to stand on? Please tell me that.
Well, I think it's the contributions they're getting from what I call far-left people and deep state people that is really going to be used to bring Trump down. And, like Soros, I saw the other day where he donated $28 million. And, I know behind the scenes the unions are making big donations to the Democratic Party and that. And, the Republicans come out saying they're getting all this money. But the problem is, and people need to understand this isn't coming from your everyday citizens, the big amount of it. It's coming from these left deep state people.
Absolutely. Yesterday, of course, there was a lot of cheerleading for Hillary in a virtual broadcast of sitting side by side via the cameras to Joe Biden, and Hillary endorsed Joe as Mr. All-American. And it surprised me that never once anything has been said about his misdeeds with possibly sexual assault charges. My goodness, they're sure whitewashing this thing.
Oh, they are, and that's what they do. And, and Hillary is in there, and, she may comment, but he's a good man. He'll do the right things for America and make America better and all the comments she was making about him, you almost step back and think, boy, she's just speaking like an airhead.
Well, and not only that, but she utilized her platform yesterday, and I'm sure you noticed this, to promote the pandemic as the crutch that the Democrats want to implement universal health care. Comment on that.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me because it's another way they attract voters. We'll give everybody free health care and all that, and we'll give you free this and free that, and it's a way of getting votes. But at the end of the day, it won't happen because they won't do it. It's kind of like when we had our battle with the SEIU. they were talking to people about getting free this, and our employees and other employees for other companies, you'll get free this and free that and everything. And this kind of thing happens all the time. But the truth is, when they get into position, it doesn't happen.
Dave, when you had your battles with the SEIU union, and did they ever reach a point where you felt comfortable that they would leave you alone and not bother you again, or is it kind of a daily trepidation that they might reoccur?
No, I really believe, we beat them in judiciary court here in Indiana, and 3 days later it was appealed to Washington. It took us 14 months. We won in Washington in front of the National Labor Relations Board 3-0, which at that time was Obama was the president, and it was a pro-union NLRB, and we won 3-0. And ever since that time, we really haven't. We had to fight the UAW up in Kokomo, Indiana, many years ago, and but we hear nothing from them.
Uh-huh. Do we have a major problem, last question this morning, in regards to the over 22, almost 23 million people that are out of work, unemployed? Here's my thought. Tell me how wrong I am. The numbers scare me to death. 22, 23 million unemployed. And then the offerings of unemployment money, welfare money, if you will, to stay out of work actually are incurring them more money than the incentive of going back and getting a job. How afraid are you of that situation?
It hasn't affected us at all, and it doesn't scare me, because a lot of these people, they might be getting more per hour, but in a lot of cases they're not getting their benefit programs that
True.
They would be getting, and or if they do, they have to go out and pay more for them. So I don't think it's a big thing. I think it's going to go away.
Okay. Final thought. I absolutely was glued to the television set for the 4-part series about the Chicago Bulls, featuring, of course, Michael Jordan and Coach Phil Jackson and the others of that team. Did you get a chance to see the series called The Last Dance?
No, I did not see that.
Let me tell you something. As a dear friend, I urge you to try to get a copy of it if you can, or find out when it's going to be played again. It is the most compelling and absolutely interesting documentaries I've ever seen about professional sports and personalities involved in professional sports. And you, as a great basketball player, you would really enjoy that.
Okay, I'll look up The Last Dance.
Okay, yeah. And remember, it's not talking about Lawrence Welk.
Okay.
Okay. Dave Vigo, Indianapolis, Indiana. The weather here is beautiful in southern Idaho. God bless you. Stay well, and we'll look forward to having you back on next Wednesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a great weekend, Zeb.
All right, take care. I really like Dave. He's a straight shooter and tells it like it is. Thank you very much. I know some other straight shooters that tell it like it is, and that's, of course, our friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, his family, and the staff at Hanson Mortuary, serving you and your family when there's the passing of a loved one. And, they provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. It's a really difficult time, so please let them serve you. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. I'll say that number again, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Wow, beautiful day outside, and it's supposed to get up to about 84 degrees today, and then they said later on tonight we might have some wind coming in and showers tomorrow. We'll have the weather forecast in about 15 minutes. Don't forget, too, Let's Ride. These folks are phenomenal to work with, and you've only got a couple of days left to get your four-wheelers or side-by-sides in there to Let's Ride to have the service work done, to where you can take up on their deal of 15% off on all the service work through the month of April. Now, really, give them a call right now. Put this number down on paper and give them a jingle. 436-4771. 436-4771, and they've got an outstanding service department that can serve you right now and save some money. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Don't forget, for all your four-wheelers, all your side-by-sides, all the accessories, everything, this is where the fun is sold at Let's Ride. Want to also urge you to remember that, excuse me, I got that frog in my throat again this morning, that over in that same area, our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. My. You talk about service. Now, they really go way over and above board to help their clients and serve you. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and a whole bunch more. Todd and the crew, dedicated and responsive to your needs. So please, all you need to do is just call the number 436-4424. I'll say that number again, 436-4424. Please give them a call today. Cameron and Siemens Insurance in Rupert. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line. And I don't believe I've ever had this gentleman on my program before, but I really am looking forward to getting his thoughts. That's Dr. Steve Turley. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Zeb. Thanks so much for having me.
You know, when I read a little bit of your bio and I read a little bit about what you're talking about, I thought, man, this fella needs to put on a pair of cowboy boots and come on my program because I think we're of the same mold. So it's nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. So it's great to be here with you.
Steve, tell me a little bit about what you do, who you are. Give us a little background, if you would, please.
Sure, Zeb. Well, interestingly, I have degrees. I have 2 degrees, in one in music and the other in theology. So I like to say I went where the money is. And in the midst of doing my doctoral research several years back, I came across a field of study known as post-secular studies, which we would know probably more broadly as post-globalist studies. And it basically sees the globalist world as basically falling apart and a new conservative age, particularly a religiously conservative age, as rising. Now, when I first read this a decade ago or so, I couldn't believe it. I'm a natural-born pessimist. I'm always worried and anxious and the like, and so, but there it was. There were the studies, in the library, and they were predicting that the modern, secularized, globalist world is beginning to collapse. And I took a fascination with this scholarship, and I kept up with it and read about it. I knew things like that were happening in Russia or in the Middle East or in sub-Saharan Africa or in India. But here in the West, I said, never going to happen. And then I'll just never forget, I woke up on June 23rd, 2016, and I read the headlines, and it said, Brexit happened. Britain has officially left the European Union. Mm-hmm. Against all odds, more Brits voted to leave the EU and embrace a nationalist vision of life than had ever voted for a UK politician in their history. And as it turned out, that was just the beginning. Just a couple of months later, November 8th, 2016, Donald J. Trump wins the presidency, and it kept going. Over the next couple of years, we saw nationalist populists win elections in Austria, Italy, Hungary, Sweden, Brazil, Estonia, Poland, France. We could go on, and I suddenly saw this scholarship come alive right before my very eyes, and I said, I can't keep this from people. If I found this in the alcoves of a library, I got to make this scholarship known. So I started a YouTube channel, and over the last now 3 years have been sharing what I think is some amazing news that we are seeing an incredible political earthquake in the making right in front of our very eyes.
You know, Steve, I'm so glad to have you lay that out for us and explain it. And your thoughts and mine are quite similar, if not the same. But I have long time been an antagonist against globalization. I don't believe in giving up my culture. I don't believe in giving up my nationalist pride of being an American. I just think that we've seen too much damage done to our culture, and trying to change and transition it to where we're all the same. We're one big happy world, but it doesn't work that way, and I don't want it to work that way. How would you respond to that?
That's right, and you would be in the growing supermajority. I think we tried for a number of decades this notion of a one-size-fits-all political and economic system for all people, for all times, for all places. And what we found is that while globalism certainly has advantages as a servant, we certainly love, we're doing it now with telecommunications or on YouTube and the like, the problem is when it becomes a master. Then it's, in the classical Christian terms, it becomes an idol. Mm-hmm. And when it becomes a master, what we found is that globalization does far more harm than any good. At the very least, what it does is it creates two classes of people, our ruling political class that rule for their own benefits and not for the benefits of the people they claim to serve, and then the people, the regular populum, who they generally, we find more and more disdain and want nothing to do with when the populace starts voicing exactly what you voice. You know, we're concerned, we love our culture, our customs, our traditions. We don't think we have privilege. We think we have inheritance. And we want to hold on to, we feel we have an obligation and a responsibility to care and nurture for and pass down that inheritance. And to be told now that that inheritance is bigoted and intolerant and sexist and racist and homophobic, you don't have to be a genius to figure out that more and more populations are going to give a blowback against that and say, no, it's not. Actually, you guys are the intolerant ones. You're the anti-democratic ones. You're the ones who are the tyrants. And we want our culture back. And that's what you're seeing all over the world. Population after population is now turning away from the globalists and embracing a nationalist, populist, traditionalist vision of a renewed right. And it's frankly beautiful.
You know, Steve, it wasn't that many months ago on my program, and we had quite a conversation about nationalists and nationalism, and I made the comment, I'm a Caucasian, I can't change the color of my skin, nor can you, and I'm a nationalist. I absolutely believe the United States of America is a God's gift to me to be a citizen in this country. I stand with tears in my eyes every time I see the flag go up and hear the Star-Spangled Banner, and yet people have called and criticized me on this program for being a bigot and a hate monger and being a nationalist. When did the word nationalist all of a sudden take on this negative connotation?
Yeah, it seems to have been a hangover from post-World War II. Hitler got recast as this sort of hyper-nationalist, but the irony was, in all of that, and people I think are starting to come to terms with this more and more, the irony is he wasn't a nationalist, he was an imperialist. He wanted to rule the world. So we had really kind of three sort of imperial projects in the 20th century. We had obviously communism, we had fascism, and then increasingly after World War II, you started seeing globalism emerge as a major imperialist power, as it were. So, again, a one-size-fits-all political and economic system. And so what it tried to do, every belief system, every political system has to have taboos. You have to have things like we have them. We see globalism as taboo. There's got to be things where you draw your boundaries and you say, look, if you cross this boundary, that's bad. That's going to be detrimental to the things that we love and care about as a culture. So if I go on a basketball court, I'm 5'5", so you won't find me on a basketball court normally, but maybe to be a towel boy. But if I go on a basketball court and I grab the ball and I start running like a rugby player, it's not going to take long before I get excommunicated from that, because if everyone started doing that, basketball would cease to exist. So we all have taboos. We all have things that you're not allowed to do. And what globalism did is it turned something that is very natural, very normal, very vibrant in terms of giving us a sense of identity, a sense of meaning and purpose in life that tends to be absolutely linked with a thoroughly religious conception of the world, a sacred conception of the world. They took good old simple nationalism and they turned it into this major boogeyman that if you affirm it, suddenly you're a neo-Nazi bigot. And the problem is just it's not working anymore. It's falling on deaf ears quite organically. Nobody's reading deep philosophical books on the glories of nationalism. They just feel it in their bones, just like what you said. Looking up, looking at the flag, getting tears in your eyes when you hear the Star-Spangled Banner. There is a sense that I belong to an inheritance, something that is a gift to what it means to be human, to enable our humanity to flourish, and I'm not going to let globalists take it away from me.
Absolutely.
You are in the majority. There was a Gallup poll that found that as of last year, liberals outnumber conservatives in only 6 states in the Union. Only 6.
Wow.
Conservatives are the dominant majority, and that's happening everywhere.
Steve, I absolutely believe that over the last 10 years, I'll go that far back, and especially now because of the coronavirus, that Christianity, my faith, has been under attack. And I get on the radio and you can have various stories about anti-Christmas and anti-churches and everything else. And then all of a sudden, with the coronavirus, the churches are closed. I am really concerned that this coronavirus scare is going to be a nail in the coffin to not only Christianity, but churches in general, as far as religion trying to keep a foothold in America. Am I wrong?
It'll have to remain to be seen. What I would do is I want to make a connection between renewed faith, which is what we're seeing, in connection with renewed nationalism. So nationalist movements tend to be very pro-life. They tend to be very socially conservative. We're seeing that particularly in Eastern Europe right now, and Russia and India and Brazil. We're seeing it here in the United States. 70% of the nation right now has some kind of pro-life legislation on the desks, as it were, being considered in some way, shape, and form. 90% of our counties are abortion-free. We've cut abortion in half over the course of the last 30 years. We've shut down 75% of abortion clinics. So what I would say is the trends are going twofold. It's a clash. It's very similar to what Samuel Huntington was arguing for in the 1990s when he talked about a clash of civilizations. We've got a clash of globalism versus nationalism right now, or a clash between the political class and the people, or clash between secularists and Christians. And so they're going to make their moves. They're going to do their best to shut the doors, as it were, to the church as best they can to defeat us as a political force, as well as a cultural and social force for good. But at the same time, the nationalist trends that are going will always be there to have the back of the faith that's required to make the nationalism sacred. So again, it remains to be seen what happens in the near future, but you can be sure that there are tens of millions of people that feel just the way you do, and will do everything they can to see a very vibrant faith emerge from this virus.
You know, we keep referring, and I do it all the time myself, to the left and the evil as they. But can we be more poignant and more pinpoint clear as to who the they is in our society that wants to not only promote globalization, but anti-Christian efforts and that type of thing? Who are they?
Well, it's a conglomerate, isn't it? It's the Democratic Party, it's university professors, it's the mainstream media. Well, I like to call them the left-wing activists disguised as journalists, or the hecklers disguised as reporters. It's Hollywood, it's Hulu, it's Netflix. I mean, it's basically this kind of synopticon, this cultural canopy that we're all living under. And they're all united by this notion that anything that came before woke culture, anything that came before them is by definition tainted with bigotry and homophobia and racism and sexism and the like. And they are messianic in the sense that they are bringing true justice into the world. But that true justice means, and it's a very Marxian conception of life, a cultural Marxist conception. True justice means bringing in all of these supposed grievance groups, these minority groups, and they get they get invented every day. I mean, you can recreate the notion of a grievance group known as intersectionality. And what we're going to do is we're going to give them, supposedly, this is the propaganda, full and complete democratic rights. But in order to do that, we have to destroy the dominant culture that stood in the way and that existed prior to wokeness, prior to the Great Awakening. And that, of course, would be primarily, Christian Western civilization. And that's why they tend to be so anti-Christian, so anti-Western, so anti-male, so anti-white, because they just see us as the dominant culture that has thus far disenfranchised all these minority cultures. So, and these believers in that kind of ideology have taken over the power structures of the nation over the last 40 or 50 years. And the problem, the reason why they hate Trump so much, the reason why they hate us so much, is there's a massive backlash. There's a political earthquake. We don't want them in power anymore, and we're doing everything we can to get rid of them.
Are you, like me, very, very concerned of the left and the Democratic Party? And I'm very blunt. I think they're very insidious as to what they're trying to do to promote the pandemic of coronavirus as a tool in their toolbox to eliminate President Trump from another 4 years. Do you agree with me that they are using every evil source they can to regain power?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't even know if they're being subtle at this point. I mean, again, just look at the press conferences. Like I say, these hecklers disguised as reporters. I mean, the level of disrespect that they're showing to Trump is beyond. I mean, it's beyond measure. The good news is that Trump has higher approval ratings than the press does in terms of trustworthiness. Or you look at the radical discrepancy between the way they're handling the sexual allegations against Kavanaugh versus what's going on now with Biden. It's almost, I mean, it's comical at this point. So there's no question. We have to remember in 2016, up to that point, newspapers were generally had a certain parity in terms of who they endorsed for president. It was like 55-45 Democrat over Republican candidate. In 2016, only 3% of newspapers endorsed now President Trump, then candidate Donald Trump. I mean, it was so blatant that they wanted nothing to do with the sort of resurrected Pat Buchanan-esque nationalist populism that was now embodied in Trump unapologetically. It was so blatant. And they're just doing it all over again this year. So, yes, I think they're exploiting. I mean, what was it, Bill Maher? HBO's Bill Maher came out and said not a few months back that he hoped there was going to be some kind of recession because that was going to be the only way he thought to get rid of Trump. I don't think they're right on that. I think Trump is a wartime president. Wartime presidents almost always are reelected. But nevertheless, yeah, I do think that there is some very hopeful, wishful thinking that this pandemic could be exploited to end the Trump presidency.
Let me ask you real quick. I've only got a minute left, but Dr. Steve Turley, you've written over 20 books. Would you like to highlight one or two real quick so that my listeners could perhaps look these up and follow more about what you write?
Oh, sure. No, thank you for that. That'd be great. I think the big ones are The New Nationalism. These can be all found on Amazon. The New Nationalism, that talks about the difference between the nationalisms of, say, like, the 20th century and then this new nationalism, which is really animated by a love and a longing to return to nation culture, custom, and tradition, respect for other nations and the like. I have The Return of Christendom, how demography and politics are shaping a new Christian majority throughout the world. I have Classical versus Modern Education. That's another one people tend to like, that talks about the renewal of the education system that's going on right now towards a much more traditionalist and nationalist conception of an educated person. So just punch in my name, Steve Turley, on Amazon. You'll see a bunch of the books just appear for you.
I want to really invite you back again in the future. Dr. Steve Turley, you've been a real refreshing guest this morning to talk to. I appreciate it. God bless. Stay well, and we'll have you back.
You too, Zeb. Thank you so much.
All right, sir. Thank you. Very interesting individual, and I'll look forward to having him come back on our program in the future after I get done biting my tongue. And that's Dr. Steve Turley. Thank you very, very much. I think I better go to the weather forecast. Old Wheels, he sits over there going, look at the clock, Zeb, look at the clock. Okay. The weather is brought to you by Phillips Oakes Goodwin Crane and Company. Now, I use the word professionals, and they are. They really understand accounting services to you, your family, and your business. And they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area and beyond for well over 50 years. I mean, we're talking tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning, financial statement preparation. They know. They know, and that's why they are the professionals. They have offices in Burley and Rupert serving you, your family, and your business. Phillips Oakes Goodwin Crane and Company. Right now, Gina with the weather.
Spring storms are in our forecast. Here's a look at your weather for today. We are expecting sunny skies. Going to be warming up to 84. A little bit of a breeze out of the south by this afternoon. Tonight, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly after midnight, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a low of 56. Tomorrow, 50% chance of rain and or thunderstorms. Now, some of these storms could be severe with large hail and damaging winds. Partly sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 77. For tomorrow night, hopefully that's going to be tapering off. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 47 by Friday. Back to partly sunny skies, high of 70. Saturday, mostly sunny, low 70s. That's the your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
That just rolled off her tongue so easy. Saturday, 70s. It just sounds so nice. I love those kind of forecasts. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oakes Goodwin Crane and Company. The best of accounting services because they are the professionals. In Burley and Rupert, Phillips Oakes Goodwin Crane and Company. I have a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. Just maybe a little suggestion. Do you think it would be a good idea for you to have a spot maybe 2 or 3 times a week for people who have left communist countries and the reasons for it, and saturate the airwaves with people like this?
Oh, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I like the idea, and I'll just turn it around to you and say logistically, I'd have to pursue it and see what time constraints and what time is available. My program is so completely filled up, and this isn't complaining. This is absolutely a blessing. My program is so completely filled up with different segments from Monday through Thursday that I'll have to see what time is available and how it could be put in, but I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, you got so many people that are disgusted, and they feel like there's no way to put a stop to the garbage that's going on.
Yeah. The thing about my program is, and this sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not. I'm just being very honest. The time consumption is enormous. I try to provide a plethora of different guests every day on my program. I'm not just going to sit here and babble on in the microphone like I'm the professor of all knowledge. That's why I get the best of people to come on my program and share their viewpoints on everything on a national and international level, and I'll certainly take your advice and try to pursue this and see what we can come up with.
Well, you've got about one of the best conservative programs on the air today because you are totally open, and if somebody is not telling the truth, you step on their toes, and that's the way it should be.
Well, I appreciate that, Tony. Very much I appreciate that. And you and Mary have been such faithful listeners. Again, stay well, my dear friend. And if you get a chance, you might want to call me later on today or tomorrow, and we'll discuss this some more.
Okay.
All right, buddy.
Probably tomorrow would be good.
It would be better for me also. Thank you very much.
Okay, Zeb.
All right, sir. Bye. Take care. Want to remind everybody about Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service and tree trimming and shrub trimming and everything else. Oh, they are busy right now. And with all the wind in southern Idaho, you better believe it. Ay. A lot of trimming needs to be done. And also it's time to get your fruit trees trimmed. I said that right today. And they've got the excellent crew to do it. Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. How do you get a hold of them? Well, it's easy. Just call 438-2485. That number again, 438-2485. They really know what they're doing. Let me tell you. And they can help you. Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 438-2485. You get a hold of them today. Want to quickly also remind you about our friends at 7K Metals. Yes, I urge you to write these numbers down and call these folks because they can help you with silver purchases that are sent right to your home. That's right, 7K Metals, helping you build your own financial security, kind of like your own bank and your future, and it's a valued treasure for your loved ones. And I really urge you, we've been involved in it now for about 4 or 5 months. And to help with your financial security, call Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. Please tell them I told you to call. These are nice people with 7K Metals and silver purchases. Absolutely a great idea. We're going to go to the news right now from CBS, and boy, have we got a couple of home run hitters coming up to the plate next hour. Dr. Gerard Lamero at 10:06, and then the man from Beantown back in Boston, Massachusetts, Gary Goldman, coming up this next hour. You stay tuned, Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, good morning, and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on this Wednesday, April 28th, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you in a very safe, clean environment with the best in tires and service for your vehicles. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. And of course also Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, our friends at Greystone Crossing Senior Living, a beautiful, underline the word beautiful, 12-bedroom home for senior living on Alfresco Road. Oh, my goodness, you'd better call seniors and find out more about it. Call Matt or Kelly Wiggins at 650-4979 and set up an appointment to see this beautiful facility, 3 meals a day, along with all your friends there, housekeeping, local transportation. You're going to love it. Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, Wheels, could we please have the good word for the May 19th primaries?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, to explain this year's voting by mail.
This year it's going to be a little different. You will be getting an absentee ballot request form in the mail. Fill it out. Send it in. Then the county clerk will send you an absentee ballot form. This is how you vote. Fill it out. Mail it in by May 19th. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to call your county clerk's office. Paid for by Bedkeeper, Idaho.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. And a reminder, don't forget Vicky's Country Gardens every Monday at 10:30 right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And you can learn all about how to grow a bigger, better, healthier garden with our lovely friend Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens. And, of course, over in Paul on the Burley Paul Highway, Vicky's Country Gardens, Mondays right here on Zeb at the Ranch at 10:30. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you again a man that is absolutely one of my favorite guests on the show. And by the way, Wheels, again, I hate to ask you, but I need it turned up a little bit in my headset. He is an author, political analyst, and expert on forecast models, and I put a lot of faith in this man. Dr. Gerard Lameiro, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be with you.
Well, I certainly hope you and your health situation are being blessed. I hope you're A-OK and doing better.
Well, I am. My cancer, which you knew I got about a year ago, which is a very bad cancer diagnosis. The cancer is just disappearing literally from the CAT scan. When they take a CAT scan, there's less of it. And it just basically goes off the screen. The immune system with the new immunotherapy drugs apparently just eats it up.
Well, God's blessings to you, my dear friend, and I mean that. I said earlier that there's nobody that I trust more for a political opinion than you, and the landscape, I guess I'll use that word, the landscape of politics right now seems to be changing every day due to the coronavirus. What are your thoughts on not only the virus, but what it has done to change politics in America?
Well, I really believe that the coronavirus, while a bad virus, especially for anyone who is ill or very old or other things, high blood pressure folks seem to have a rough time with it too. For anybody who gets it, it's a terrible thing. But let's face it, 20% of the cases are in nursing homes. They're mostly older, mostly compromised, and we wish them the best and don't want anyone to get it. But I don't think we needed to shut down America. I think it's done damage. We have literally about 27 million people unemployed. That makes a hit on the economy. And I think a lot of the folks on the left wanted to take advantage of this crisis, that old saying about never let a crisis go to waste that one of the Democrats said a few years ago, is applicable here. They like the idea of keeping people from going to church. Socialists are atheists. That's where it started. They like not having people allowed to go to church. They like controlling small businesses. They like telling farmers they can't have their markets. They kind of enjoy the power, and really what all of this teaches us is this is what America would be like, and getting worse if socialists got into power. This is the kind of control, this is the kind of assault on our freedom that they would do. So absolutely, this has been a political virus. It's been a virus that they could have treated like any other flu, kept away the senior citizens, kept them safe, but let the rest of us do our jobs.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Lameiro. Here we are looking at where Idaho, for instance, has been shut down for basically over a month, as many, many states across the United States. Economics, I couldn't get it out, have suffered greatly. Businesses have gone under. People are wondering how they're going to feed their families. Are we at a point on a 1 to 10 scale to where we can't tip the scales back to normalcy, or are we still going to be okay?
We're not there yet. Right now, we can count on a down economy in the summer. It's going to take a hit. There's no question. You put that many people out of work, it matters. And governments are also going to take a hit on tax revenues because they don't get sales tax when nobody goes to stores. They don't get as much income tax when people don't have incomes. They don't get as much property taxes when people get foreclosed on. So we're going to have a recession. You can guarantee that, but it should pop right back up in the fall, assuming we allow people to go back this month. If we drag this out to the summer, we're looking at a depression, I'm sorry to say. I mean, in all honesty, you can't shut down a $22 trillion economy indefinitely. We can get by with a month or two like we're doing, but we better get back to business, and people better open their eyes because the ramifications are not good. There are social ramifications. People commit suicide. Do you know for every 1%, in unemployment, your suicide that goes up, your suicide rate goes up. People get despondent, and it's understandable. There's also more wife abuse, child abuse, marriages that break up under the pressure of not having any income. People get bored out of their minds. Some people go to drugs or alcohol. There are social costs that are vast. And while we do want to protect every American, the question is how many people do we want to lose in other ways, like through suicide?
Yes, absolutely. About an hour ago, I had a very interesting gentleman that I agreed with every point that he had, and that was Dr. Steve Turley, and he was talking about anti-globalization, and I couldn't agree more. The left seems to want to push us all to a globalized society, and right now with the left using this pandemic to their advantage and their political advantage, have you, Dr. Lamero, changed any of your thinking about what might happen in November?
In terms of the election, I have done an updated forecast because that's the responsible thing to do. By the way, Dr. Steve Turley is a good person. I know him personally. We're friends, and I have high regard for him as well.
Thank you.
In terms of the election, my new forecast, which came out yesterday, shows a real upset. There are things going on right now in the Democratic Party. For example, the New York State Democratic presidential primary has been canceled. And I now think that Joe Biden will not get the nomination. Michelle Obama, I believe, will get the nomination, but will go on to lose to Donald Trump.
Wow. I mean, you just set me back in my already beat-up chair. Why Michelle Obama as opposed to possibly the indoctrination and bringing through the door of Andrew Cuomo?
Andrew Cuomo has a lot of problems going for him. He's botched up New York State. He's botched up how they handled the virus victims, like forcing people when they got out of the hospital to be taken back by their nursing homes, which potentially infected a lot more people. There are a lot of things that he has to answer for, and I do not think he can get the nomination. In addition, he can't get the nomination for vice president in case Biden were to get the nomination because Biden has promised a female. And the Democratic Party seems to be leaning toward a female. And none of the candidates are still in the race on the presidential side. The thing that's happened, though, is if you look carefully, Biden has 1,352 delegates. You need 1,991. That's a shortage of about 650 delegates.
Right.
So he does not have the nomination wrapped up. And the New York State presidential primary for Democrats was canceled. And what that did is that prevents Joe Biden from getting another 274 delegates. And a lot of other primaries after that may cancel themselves following New York's pattern. And Joe Biden isn't going to get to 1,991. That means they get to the convention, and it's an open convention. Bernie Sanders still has his 900 delegates. He did not release them. He was holding on to them so he could get a very socialist agenda platform. But it turns out he's in a battle with Joe Biden, but neither will get the nomination, and it's likely to go to someone else on the second ballot, or third ballot, or fourth ballot. It may go on for a while. This is going to be a contested convention like we haven't seen in decades.
Well, that leads me to the next question then, Dr. Lamero. With the coronavirus and the scare tactics that are being imposed on all of us, what if they don't have a convention this summer?
Well, they'll have to have a convention at least virtually, because otherwise they won't have a nominee.
Right.
Because unless they rewrite their entire rules, which I'm not sure they can pull off that quickly or legally, they will probably have some type of Zoom meeting or Skype meeting or telephone conference or something like that, something virtual where everybody stays put. But, you know, there's no reason for that because the flu isn't that dangerous. And by August, flus kind of die out around June.
Mm-hmm.
They don't usually last past June. That's just the way flus are. And so I kind of think they'll hold it in person. They're going to want to have the TV cameras on whoever they nominate. They're going to want the publicity. But even if they don't, they still have to pick somebody.
Let me ask you, why and how did you come up with the name, and it did shock me this morning, of Michelle Obama? When I hear the Obama name, it scares me as a taxpayer because I don't want to go back to Obamacare and Obama economics and that type of thing. Do you have any fears at all that perhaps Michelle Obama, who many have called America's sweetheart and the sweetest first lady ever, do you have any fears that she may upset the apple cart?
No, not at all. Not at all. She will actually be a better candidate than Joe Biden because I think she doesn't suffer from senility. And let's be honest, I just listened to a news report, an actual video report from Australia. And the Australian people, they were laughing at Joe Biden. They put on one clip after another and a lot of things. And they even used, I think, the word senility in their news report. A lot of people objectively are looking at him, even from outside the country, and saying, how can you have a president who says things that are so outrageous and untrue and nonsensical? You know, people, unfortunately, sometimes when they get older, they lose a little of their ability to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, at any rate, I really think that she's next in line in terms of she has the second highest popularity in the Democratic Party. She's a woman, that's a plus. She's a minority, that's a plus from the Democrats' point of view. And she has the backing of the Obama machine because he's got a powerful machine. They've got the Netflix contract. She had a book that sold 3 million copies a month. She did all the right things to run for president. She just never officially announced.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm going to kind of turn things around a little bit. We have watched Donald Trump over the last few years, and the man really, in my opinion, never had a chance from the time the starting gates opened until he made the first turn on the racetrack. He was under siege by everybody on the left, whether it was Russian collusion or whether it was a phony dossier, whether it was the Mueller report, whether it was impeachment over a phone call to Ukraine. The man's really never had a chance to be a president that could lead, but yet we had the greatest economy ever. What do you think about his shortcomings, and how is he going to have to polish the apple, so to speak, to maybe gain more support going into November?
Well, his shortcomings may also be his strengths. You know, he was very, very tough. He's kind of a New York street fighter, and that is a plus and a minus. He was dealing with just terribly difficult people. And let me tell you, if Jeb Bush, who's mild-mannered, friendly, from the very friendly, home ranch, if you will, down in Texas, If he had gotten the nomination, he would have been totally destroyed and sought upon. The reason the left is against Donald Trump is not his personalities, his idiosyncrasies, his brash statements sometimes. It's because he is pro-Constitution, pro-freedom, pro-capitalism, and they are pro-socialist, which is against capitalism, against freedom, and against the Constitution. You remember Obama talking about to the Chinese, well, I have the Constitution I have to live with, they don't, meaning it's easier for them to be a dictator than him. I mean, let's face it, the left, the Democratic Party, they have turned so far away from the Constitution that anybody who supports the Constitution is their enemy.
Right.
That's why they can't stand Donald Trump. He's the epitome of a great American.
Let me ask you this final thought here to expand on a little bit, Dr. Lamero. The left is using the pandemic, and I knew they would, to further their promotion of green energy and climate change and everything else connected to it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the world's all going to come to a screeching halt in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And the United Nations saying the pandemic is a necessary tool for them to force green energy and climate change. Give us your thoughts on all this.
Well, they've been trying to do this exact same thing with climate change models for years. They talked about global cooling, global warming, climate change. They changed their rhetoric a little, but it's the same thing. It's like, we want to control the world, and we're going to threaten you with extinction, or you're going to die, or the planet's going to die. And there's no support for that scientifically. In fact, their models are just like these COVID models. They were doomsday models from the beginning. Models can say anything you want. If you want to lie with models, you can lie with models very easily. You just change the assumptions. They use what we call in mathematics exponential functions. And so if you turn that number up a little bit at the bottom, it grows exponentially. So then you have this crisis with millions of Americans dying. That was never going to happen. And the same thing is never going to happen with global climate change. But the socialists, the leftists, they want to control everything, and they're going to tell you how to save the world. Give them all the power, they will make all the decisions, and all their decisions will be perfect. Which, if you believe that, I can sell you some really bad land in some swamp somewhere.
Final thought, and this is very serious. We've seen through the pandemic governors closing down states, closing down businesses, essential, non-essential, etc. And in the sweeping of all this with the pandemic, we've seen freedoms lost, attacks on the First and Second Amendments. I have said on my program many, many times, many days, that Americans need to stand up and make absolutely certain that these freedoms are reestablished and that the government realizes they don't have the power they think they do.
Absolutely. And as Senator Mitch McConnell just said today, there are going to be a whole lot of lawsuits based on them trying to take away freedoms. Going to be a whole lot of lawsuits as soon as we get finished with the COVID virus. And that's absolutely true, and there are people already suing for things like preventing churches from getting together. We had in Colorado a little boy throwing catch in the park, an empty park, with a father and a little son, and they live in the same house, so it's not like some new germ they might catch from each other. The father was arrested for playing ball with his son. Is that idiotic?
Mm-hmm. You know, and really, those stories go on and on and on. Former Patriots quarterback Tom Brady thrown out of a park that was completely empty as he's running and trying to get in training for his new job with the Buccaneers. This social distancing and wearing the mask and the hand sanitization and everything, I can go along with that. But I absolutely say that we need to get back to work. We need to go back to our houses of worship. We need to start acting like Americans again before it's too late.
I agree with you, but I will add one thing to what you just said. and that is social distancing, social isolation. There's a lot of numbers out there, a lot of evidence, a lot of studies that say it's not necessary, and you get the same number of people infected either way. Because there's a certain herd immunity that most people, 97%, are not going to die of the disease. They're going to get better and have antibodies. And we never shut down the country for any other flu, swine flu, Ebola, H1N1, H3N, you name it, the flu. We never shut the country down, and we did just fine. Some people died, unfortunately. Some people will die with this one as well, unfortunately. But you don't shut down an economy. This is, I think, a political virus.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of his new book called Real World Socialism. I've had a copy. I've read it. It is outstanding. I urge you to get a copy. Written by Dr. Gerard Lameiro, political analyst that I have the utmost respect for. Sir, God bless you. Stay well. Please come back soon.
God bless you and all your listeners up in that wonderful state you live in.
Thank you very much. Dr. Gerard Lameiro, a true friend of this program, and we'll have him back in about 2 more weeks. Thank you very much. Right now, it's time to tell you quickly about our friends at Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. Hello, Curtis and Lorena and the rest of the staff. When it comes to electronics, when it comes to all the cables and the power cords and all the TVs and the surveillance cameras and the home theater systems and the car stereos and speakers and all the complete sound systems. Take a breath, Zeb. There's more to talk about. Absolutely. Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. They are open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6, and wonderful people serving you. I urge you, for all your electronic needs, go to this place, Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. The number to call, 678-6997. Also want to remind you about some really, really good people that show they care. And they're putting in a diligence of maybe they're not open all day long, but they're going to let you call and they'll run to the store and serve you with all your furniture and mattress needs, floor covering needs. I'm talking about some very nice people at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. Here's what Jeff will do. He said, man, I'll tell you what, all they have to do is call me and I'll be here. 878-2341. That number again, 878-2341. And you can also call him on his cell phone, 670-2864. If you're into the beautification and comfortization of your home, look no further than all the great buys on furniture, bedroom sets, mattresses, floor covering, carpet. It's all there at a company you know and you can rely on. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley. Right now, let's send it over to Wheels. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
And thank you very much. A real quick reminder about our dear friend Doug at Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Hayburn. He is selling the business, and you'd better check it out. It is a turnkey operation, a business that is all ready for you. Check it out. Doug will train the buyer of the business in rebuilding starters and repair, and believe me, it's a great business opportunity. Contact 878-4991 or 431-5282. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, 635 21st Street in Hayburn. For sale. You'd better check it out today. 878-4991. Right now, we're going to go to a guest that's been on 4 or 5 times in the past, and I have a lot of respect for his ability and his opinions, and he is the author of the book, My Big Mouth and the Ugly Truth, Taking the Stress Out of Opinions versus Fact, and he's got a radio program, Business, Politics, and Lifestyles. Let's talk to the man from Beantown, Boston, Massachusetts, Gary Goldman. How are you?
Zeb, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, and it's spring. I'm excited. I'm outside 99% of the time, and I am not, underline the word not, going to let this coronavirus destroy my life.
No, we can't. We can't let it destroy our lives. And I know here in Massachusetts, people are at wit's end. That yesterday the governor announced he's going to keep the basically at-home order. I mean, you can roam around, but daily they seem to be putting more and more limitations on what we can do for at least another 3 weeks, Seb. And then after that, he said we should not expect a rapid opening. It will be a staged and very, slow opening to business and commerce in the, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I've got to tell you, Zeb, that I think the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, along with probably some other states in this country, are in big trouble because of these governors and the way they're reacting to this virus. I mean, they're looking at the science, they're looking at the models, they're not really looking at the numbers, the real numbers of what's happening. And sometimes I find them contradicting themselves in regard to how bad it's really been. And I'm not discounting how bad it's been. One death or one sickness, way too much. But when you put the numbers in perspective to, the basic flu and the amount of hospital beds that are being used, and there was a cry we were going to run out of ventilators. There were temporary hospitals being set up that are now being dismantled. The actions they're taking, Zeb, do not match, to me, what is really going on around me and around us, around the country. And I think that should be concerning to everybody.
Gary, I got to be really honest with you that I'm more concerned about the man that is completely distraught, goes home, sits in the kitchen late at night till the wee hours of the morning, contemplating perhaps even suicide, or the marriages that are breaking up, or whatever the problems are. This economic disaster, and that's what it is, that has been thrust upon us by the coronavirus, I think the other side of the coin is more dangerous than the risk factor of actually getting the virus. What are your thoughts?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I have been talking on the air for several weeks now that what we're going to have to come to terms with as a country is the collateral damages. Collateral damage to me is going to be the loss of business. That's one thing. That's horrific. But the other part of the collateral damage that I like to talk about, Zeb, is the psychological aspect of this. The psychological aspect of this is going to be with us for a very long period of time. It's people who are financially in distress, who are maybe losing their businesses, concerned about the well-being of their families, or the hysteria that the media and some have put on us, some elected officials have brought them to the brink of disaster. I do consulting work with the contracting field all over the country, and I've literally had to talk some owners off the ledge, like, let's take a deep breath and let's figure this out. And you're 100% right. There are people that are already feeling it in regard to their personal lives and their marriages. So, it's amazing what has happened here. And I think it's sad. And the other part of it, Zeb, is the whole bit about people that need surgery, elective surgeries. Elective doesn't mean you don't need it or it's at your choice. That's just how they distinguish the surgery. Many people out there with diseases that need care, that cannot have a biopsy taken or cannot have something done to make sure that they're okay going forward. It is absolutely crazy, and somebody has to take hold of the situation, and I think the only one way we're going to do it is to get the people to take hold of the situation and force elected officials, the government, to do what's right.
Let me ask you that, Gary. In your area, has there been any defying of these edicts by the governor or governors in various neighboring states? I mean, I'm at a point, pardon me, I got a frog in my throat. I'm at a point in my life, I'm an old man. And to be dictated to basically stay indoors and stay away from people and not go anywhere or do anything, I'm not going to adhere to it any longer. You can call me a bigot and a hate monger and out there not caring for other people and their health. But, I've only got a certain amount of days in my life as you do, and I'm certainly not going to live it in fear.
They're taking it to the street in Boston. They're going to start taking it to Monday in Boston, I believe the 4th, because that was the day we were supposed to reopen, on the Boston Common and across from the State House. This is going to be a major, major rally. And there are several other rallies that patriot groups are putting on throughout the state as well. People want the government to know they want to get back to work. What you're telling us does not make sense. You're when you look at the definition of quarantine, Zeb,
control the movement of sick people that may put one at risk. We get that. Tyranny is the control and the rights of movement of healthy people. This is where we are right now.
Yeah.
They're fundamentally overextending their reach and limiting and destroying our rights. We have the right to feed our families. We have the right to run our businesses, and this has gone way too far. Again, the numbers and the reality of the situation do not match what they're telling us.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, I know the governor here in Massachusetts talks in terms of science, not in terms of real factual information, which is part of a control, the manner in which they want to control us. But you're right. We only have limited time on this earth. Every day is special. And there is no way that I'm going to sit indoors and have anyone tell me, if I can walk through a park or walk up and down the street or how close I could be to someone that's walking next to me. Absolutely crazy. But the people in Massachusetts, and we're a very liberal state, but the people in Massachusetts have had enough. And I think Monday they're going to show the governor what it's all about.
Gary, I'm really concerned, and I want you to address this with your knowledge and expertise on this. I'm concerned about a number that says 22, almost 23 million people are unemployed. And will they, with unemployment, go back into the workforce now that we've made it almost too easy for them to stay home and draw a welfare wage, if you will? What about those 22 to 23 million unemployed? And what about the workforce?
Okay, the 22, whatever the number is, million, that will be at the end of this week, who knows? What is the incentive to go back to work when many of them are making more money staying home? Quote-unquote, universal basic income, just keep paying them to stay at home, and they'll be safer that way. That's the line they're using. And a number of things are going to happen when this starts to ease up. There are going to be people that want to go back to work, and that's fine. There's always that group. Then they're going to be the ones that you're talking about. Why should I? They may seriously be concerned about their health going back to work, or they may say, I'm just going to play this out, take as much as I can from, quote unquote, you and I, the government, and then at some point I'll go back to work. By then it may be too late, because business in this country is probably going to be done a lot different than any of us could ever imagine, and some of that is going to be to reduce the amount of real estate and reduce the amount of people on jobs. They're finding out they may not need all of these people. If I'm somebody that's been laid off or furloughed or unemployed, I'd be looking to get back to work right away to make sure I have a spot in whatever happens coming along. But it is going to be a big problem. I know the left really wants to push the scenario of let's just keep paying the income and keep people home, and that's going to be safe for them. That hasn't been proven, that by staying at home that you're any safer of contracting this disease than anyone else. It's the one time you walk outside, you can into a grocery store, you can get it. So it's a ploy that I think they're using, but we should be concerned about the economy, because when I see the president working on this infrastructure plan that he's working on, and part of people will say to me, well, he's going to absorb all the jobs. I'm like, no, he's doing this for one particular reason. He's doing this in case, A, those jobs no longer exist, and we have employment for people to eliminate the word none of us want to hear, depression. When you get to a point that the jobs are gone and you have this many people unemployed, Zeb, you have to find work for them.
That's right.
For them. We've seen this in the past in this country. I think that's why the president is looking at this big infrastructure plan as well. A, we need it, but B, to make sure people are employed and we don't end up in a horrific predicament, to me, which leads, at times I believe that's the way we're heading, because there's many people that are willing to give up the American dream and the jobs and the American life and the American way of life because they hate this president. They couldn't get him through Russiagate. They couldn't get him through the Ukraine. A lot of them jumped on this bandwagon because it just happened to come along at the right time for them.
Absolutely. Well stated. Very well stated. Let's talk about a different subject quickly, Gary, and that's the oil business. It's always great to say, oh, gee, I wish oil prices were down and the pump prices were cheaper. Well, now they are. Now they are. But that's a two-edged sword, because the cheaper oil goes, there's going to be the possibility and the reality that many oil companies in the United States that have helped build up our energy energy independents are going to go out of business. I have been urging my people, my audience, to go out and buy gas, travel, go in state, stay in state, see things you've never seen before with your family, go here, go there. And the more they can burn through that engine, the better, because we need to keep the oil companies solvent in this country. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, I agree 100%, and I do think we'll see a lot of travel within the United States this year. I think people are going to be too afraid to leave the country. But with that said, we cannot allow the oil industry to fail. Look at where it has brought us to our independence. We do not want to be dependent on anybody when it comes to oil. And the jobs, Seb, the jobs that we would lose. What was it? AOC there was laughing in public at how many jobs would be lost because she thinks the United States shouldn't be involved in oil. She has this made up dream that we're going to power our cars with wind and whatever other funky things are in her mind. But when we have people and government officials within our own country that want failure in the oil industry, that's very dangerous because that's the industry that has brought us along to the point of this independence now. We need this independence, Seb. We have to have this independence. So I agree with you. Travel as much as you can. And we do have to figure out a way somehow to get air travel, at least in the continental United States, moving to some degree. That burns jet fuel. I mean, it's all, we've got to keep things moving along.
Absolutely. One final thought. I am not a isolationist. I don't believe in that. I think we need to be open and assuming people can come in and leave this country, etc., sharing of values and worth. But I absolutely stand up behind Donald Trump and say, stop the immigration into this country right now. We've got too much of a risk factor going on. We don't have the jobs. We don't have the economy. We can't assume their personal liability coming into our country as a one-size-fits-all, and we're going to take care of you. What are your thoughts on stoppage of immigration?
I think it was well done. I think he needed to stop immigration for a couple of reasons. One being the job factor. No need to put that stress on the American economy. But secondly, the health part of it. If we look at a lot of the hot zones in Massachusetts, a lot of the hot zones, you know where they are? They're in sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities where elected officials have allowed people to come in, live in buildings, 8, 9, and this is not throwing it out. I have factual information on this, in a 600-700 square foot unit. What do you think is going to happen when people get sick, whether it's the regular flu or this coronavirus? So from a health point of view, talk about taxing our health system. We don't need it. From an economic point of view, we don't need it. And you know what, Zep? When you look at the Mexican government, who is now deporting all of those individuals that have been waiting to try and get into the United States of America, because they don't want the risk of having them in their own country, what does that tell you? That Donald Trump has been right all along. And the American people who have stood with Donald Trump on this matter, who have been called every name in the book, have been right. Immigration has to be done through a process, and I think now is the time to really look and overhaul our legal and the way people sneak into this country, because whether we like it or not, we have to really deal with the government of China and the people from China that come here and find out what the real motives are, Zeb. There's too many things happening. There's too many people that have been arrested. I know recently we had some Harvard professor and 2 associates arrested for working with the Chinese government. Too much stealing of American information that has to come to an end. Donald Trump's been right all along on immigration, and this is the time the American people have to stand up and say, enough is enough. And when you look at the numbers, the majority of the people are with the president on this, on both sides. Republicans, Democrats, and somewhere in the middle.
Gary, we're only about 5 months plus away from the fall elections. Blatantly blunt, tell me what you think your fears are that maybe the left has gained enough power to defeat Donald Trump. Do you think that can happen?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the problem being the media, the mainstream media, when people hear that false narrative that they put out there, makes some people, or makes even, they did it in 2016 with Hillary, this was a runaway. Same type of situation. Donald Trump, I think, is going to win very big, and I think there's going to be a lot of support for him, and I think you're going to see Democrats leave as well. I know Speaker Pelosi's job is in jeopardy this particular round, and rightfully so, but I think Donald Trump will be okay. I think he's handled this very well. And if it's Biden they're bringing up against him, which is somewhat questionable right now, it's still in my mind, it will be shameful at any debate if they even if the Democrats allow any debates, because he'll be embarrassing for him having to debate the president. But I think the president will be reelected, and I think we have to reelect this president, because what we're dealing with now and the overzealousness of many of the local governments will be 10 to 20 times worse, maybe 100 times worse, if a Democrat sits in the White House.
Amen. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, he has a program called Business, Politics, and Lifestyles, and also the author of My Big Mouth and the Ugly Truth, taking the stress out of opinions versus fact. Gary Goldman, you are welcome here anytime. God bless you. Stay well, stay healthy, and we'll have you back on.
Same to you, Zeb. Be well.
Thank you, sir. Very, very nice man and very informative. Gary Goldman, and I thank him back in Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you. Oh, my, time for the weather. But before we get the weather on, I want to give a lot of kudos to a great place to eat. And when this silly coronavirus scare is over and everybody can go and enjoy meals, I'm going to be one of the first people through the door at Edith's Cafe. That's right, at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, right across from the Burley Golf Course. The menu choices are absolutely outstanding. Outstanding. You'll never go away hungry, I'll tell you that. And they've got specials every day. And over at 2500 Washington Street across from Fabrical, they've moved a trailer over there to help feed all the truckers that are coming in on that area. They are really community oriented and providing great food. Edith's Cafe. The number to call, 878-2248. Again, they're located at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. Edith's Cafe. Boy, it sounds good. Right now, excuse me, I tell you what, that old frog in my throat. Caller, you're going to have to hang on just 60 seconds. I got to get a weather forecast down real fast. Scarrow's Meats, Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Bring us the weather this hour. You can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Check out all the delicious meats, whether it's the pork ribs or the tri-tips or the bacons or all the sausages and the bratwurst. Wow, it's all delicious. Absolutely, from Scarrow's Meats. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Spring storms are in our forecast. Here's a look at your weather for today. We are expecting sunny skies. Going to be warming up to 84. A little bit of a breeze out of the south by this afternoon. Tonight, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly after midnight, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a low of 56. Tomorrow, 50% chance of rain and or thunderstorms. Now, some of these storms could be severe with large hail and damaging winds. Partly sunny skies. We are expecting a high of 77. For tomorrow night, hopefully that's going to be tapering off. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 47 by Friday. Back to partly sunny skies, high of 70 Saturday, mostly sunny, low 70s. That's the your weather forecast for Zebeth Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina. Appreciate that. And, of course, the weather brought to you by Scarrow's Meats. Hello, Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Oh, all the delicious meats for you, your family, and your gatherings. And it's always the great way with changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrow's Meats. Caller, thank you for your patience. I've got about a minute and a half. Go ahead.
Well, Dr. Lamero and his prediction of what was going to happen, and Michelle Obama, I don't know. It concerns me. I hope he's wrong.
You know, Randy, let me just jump in quickly and say this. Dr. Lamero, and I did some research on this, of the political predictions that he puts forth after studying the situations. He's not some guy looking into a crystal ball. He sits down and he weighs out all the options and everything. His percentage rate is well over 91%.
Well, that's the thing, see. I've heard predictions if she got in the race that it wouldn't go the way he predicted, and so I I don't know. I thought when Barack endorsed Joe, then I figured that was a done deal, but I guess it was all just a big show. But Joe, you know, after what was described of him doing to that lady in that hall, the graphic nature of,
well, let's just.
It's just unbelievable.
Let's just call it like it is. Let's just call it like it is. Joe Biden, the Democrat, versus like what happened to Brett Kavanaugh going on in the Supreme Court is like day and night. They crucified Brett Kavanaugh and his family needlessly, and they're just giving a free pass. Whether it's CNN, MSNBC, it doesn't make any difference who it is. They're not asking the questions. They're not news people. They're not reporters. They're not journalists. They're nothing but green slime, and that's how I'm going to end the program this morning. I got to run, Randy, but God bless you for your call. Thank you, sir. Right now we're going to say the way things were, the way things ought to be, and the 4 words that mean the most to us when we wrap up the program: in God we trust. Tomorrow, Thursday, we got a whole bunch of great people coming on here. Don't miss it. We'll be here at 8:06 tomorrow morning. Zeb at the Ranch, take care, be safe. We'll see you then.